I will officially kick off the start of the tasting. Hello, 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 everyone. Yes, as you might know, I'm freshly back from my trip. I literally arrived home Tuesday morning and slept the entire day, despite trying to wake up like four super times. So if I'm not with it 100% today, it might be the jet lag. Um, and honestly, if it were up to me, I'd still be in Paris right now. But the real world and my dwindling bank account beckoned. So at least getting to see all your lovely faces is some solace. I definitely missed you guys, even though, like I said, Holly's more than capable hands for virtual tasting while I was away. And for tonight's virtual, we are actually joined by even more friends of mine, which makes it all the sweeter. So, gracing us tonight from the team at Bellarine Distillery is the extra wonderful Russell, co founder and mustache extraordinaire. As Patrick pointed out, it is one of the most impressive mustaches I've ever seen in my life. And then Craig, less mustachioed, but equally as fabulous, the head distiller and man in charge of crafting these tasty drams we're about to tuck into. And then hiding away, lurking in the corners is Justin, who is one of our dear, dear friends at the Whisky List. But before we delve in, usual housekeeping to go over. Full virtual tasting video is always in the Zoom link email for you guys. It goes over my usual pointers of if you've got 6 glasses, use them. If you don't, or you're lazy like me, totally fine. Don't drink and drive is obviously the most important pointer. The video for housekeeping is up on the YouTube channel as well if you ever need a refresher, as are all of our past virtual tastings. And this one will be when I finish editing it. We love to see your tasting notes and questions in the chat, so please pop them in. Quickly going to read out the tasting order for people watching back at home. So number 1 is the Black Sheep, 2 is the Kestrel, 3 is the Killer Audax. My Latin is terrible. Why would you name it this?
Just say the wedgie, wedge-tailed
Wedgie.
eagle.
Wedge-tailed eagle. Yeah, but it doesn't say that on the label. Whiskey number 4 is the Oak Series number 2. Whiskey number 5 is the Oak Series number 3. And then we are finishing number 6 on the Tawny Frogmouth exclusive preview. So that is officially the formal part out of the way. And while we all tuck ourselves into whiskey number 1, the Black Sheep rare release, I'm going to hand it over to Russell and Craig to tell us the story of how Bellarine Distillery came about. Yeah.
Have you got a dram in your hand?
Start out with
Make sure you've got the Black
I'm
Sheep
pulling mine now.
in hand.
and sip whenever you like. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to the screen, and we can't see everyone, but I'll try and imagine all the faces. My name's Russ. We had a vision that we might be able to. When I say we, my wife Lorelle and I, nearly 12 years ago, well, it would be 12 years now, had a dream to build or to create a whiskey, basically, without really much knowledge of where that was going to take us and what it was going to undertake to get there. We purchased a property with the sole purpose, which Justin's sitting in a tree at the moment at the property. There it is. That's an old photo, so there's been a lot of improvement to the garden. But we purchased the property to start a distillery with the concept of having a visitor experience, a distillery door, offering a little bit more than just bottle sales. While that was happening, and while I was up to my knees in mud one day, climbing around that old shed renovating it, Craig walked onto the property and was fascinated with the thought that we were undertaking this project because he had considered it himself, and he asked if he could be around to watch the thing blossom. And Craig's been there virtually since the opening of the
2017.
And became more and more involved. We became good friends. We got along well. Craig brought a lot to the whole project. We thought he deserved a part of the action. So we offered he and his wife Nikki a share in the distillery, and that's grown and grown now to where Craig and Nikki are half partners in the entire business, which has been a fantastic partnership. It's been, and both Craig and Nikki have brought so much to the business, different eyes, different ideas, and Craig's technical prowess, his hunger for information, and his ability to be able to convert that into activities has us making some, in a very short time, I think, some exceptional whiskies. The Kestrel that you'll taste tonight was last year's Australia's best single malt. So in a time frame of about 6.5 years of making whiskey, we were fortunate enough to be able to create that and get that accolade. And we know in our hearts that the spirit we're making now and the whiskies that we're laying down will be as good, if not better. We did have a bit of a goal that if Sullivan's Cove can do it and Bill Lark can do it, we can make world's best whiskey. So we will always have that dream, and we will always attempt to create with a lot of discipline and a lot of research into what makes a good spirit. We will attempt to make world's best whiskey.
We just need to start entering some awards, don't we? Some international ones.
Well,
and then we could.
We could still make it and just not tell anyone.
Yeah, that's right. This is actually
Keep it all to yourself.
right now. We just did not enter it into any competitions.
And while I do make a bit of a point of competition and world's best, we always have had the belief that the best judges of your whiskey are your customers, and if people are enjoying it and buying it, well, that's all we really need. If people are finding some comfort in our whiskies, that's our reward.
And I think we were trying to make whiskies that we liked too, more importantly. In the very early days, that's all you've got to go with. Yeah. We asked ourselves, what sort of whiskies do we like to drink? And we would always come up with words like silky, velvety, honey, chewy, big, oily. All of these terms were mouthfeel terms. So we realized quickly that we wanted to focus on creating a new make spirit, because obviously we were just starting, so we didn't know how this was going to go in the barrel, but we wanted the new make spirit to be quite big and have a really nice feel across the palate, across the tongue.
A lot of personality.
It's taken a while to be doing those tweaks, to be honest. We've only really stopped tweaking the new make this year, pretty much. We've changed yeast, we've changed grain, we've changed brewing parameters. We've got a lot of different levers that we've been learning how to pull to get to that point of a mouthfeel that we really, really like. So, I mean, this first whiskey, we should probably talk about this one a little bit.
Get everyone on it.
This is 4 years ago. We released this probably three or 4 months ago, earlier this year. It's been in an early times bourbon barrel for 4 years. So this new make is still a bit different to what we're currently making now, because 4 years ago we were still making changes. We'd only just recently changed yeast and found a yeast that actually did create much larger esters, fatty acids, and high alcohols to create esters that were bigger, and the bigger molecules do create a bigger mouthfeel. So this was kind of near the start of our journey. Kestrel, the one you're going to taste next, was actually the very first time we changed yeast and got some of those bigger esters in there. And this is the first time we tried it in a bourbon barrel too. Up until this point, we'd been filling our local wineries ex Pinot Noir barrels, French oak ex Pinot Noir barrels, and then taking them out of the Pinot Noir and resting them in bourbon barrels. But we'd never filled a bourbon barrel on its own. So that's one of the reasons it's called the Black Sheep, because it was a black sheep in our barrel house. It was also a bit of a nod to the local bar in Geelong called the Black Sheep, who we had a really good relationship with. Their general manager is now our general manager. We didn't poach him, but he left, and we picked him up pretty rapidly because he's fantastic, Mr. Paul West. But this was kind of a nod to him and the guys at the Black Sheep, because the they'd been great with all our gin and created a chamber of gin down there, very supportive, all local gins. And there was a guy there that came and did a bit of work experience too on the day that we were filling this barrel. So we thought, oh, it's the Black Sheep. It's the first bourbon barrel. We've got a guy doing some work experience from the Black Sheep, and we've got a great relationship with the Black Sheep, and we might even launch it down there
At the Black
when it's
Sheep,
ready
yeah.
at the Black Sheep. Although we didn't actually do that in the end because I know the general manager was with us now anyway.
You poached him too early, so you lost the
No, we
opportunity.
didn't poach him. We didn't
We didn't
poach
poach. We
him.
didn't poach him.
You lured him gently like a siren.
He had so much fun when we went in there to do tastings with us. When he'd left there and we rang him and said, "Are you interested?" He jumped at the opportunity. Yeah. And he's been wonderful.
Yeah, amazing. I think Mike got a great note of charred lemon. Yeah, I was getting a lot of like lemon and citrus on this whiskey. Michael K getting dark fruits and a faint taste of spice. Patrick was wondering the barrel size you guys use and the like kind of approximate age of some of these whiskeys.
Yeah, so this one is 4 years old. It was in a full-sized American oak standard barrel, 200-litre barrel.
Yep.
We had also been using 100 litres quite consistently before that time. It was around about that time, maybe 4 years ago, that we decided that we really want to move to larger format. We thought we got a better product out of a larger format. They're a bit easier to manage. They didn't go as quickly. We do like a bit of extra time if we can get it. It's often hard in Australian climate to get that time.
And we moved into a stage where we had extra time. We could afford the extra time.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
We were never trying to rush anything, but as everyone knows, smaller format does tend to mature a little bit quicker. We try to avoid any quick maturation. We try to keep it all slow to the point where we've got our small casks in a very cold part of the property and they're maturing beautifully slowly.
It's quite interesting, actually. We seem to have two different maturation environments on our property. One is in a silo that is right on the southern side of a bank of trees, so it gets no sun on it at all, and it stays so cool in there. It's often 10 degrees cooler than the outside temperature, and quite humid as well. So we've noticed the ABV in there actually drops like it does in Scotland, whereas in the shed across the paddock, it gets a bit of sun on the northern wall, and we have noticed the ABV goes up there, and so it's much drier, less humid on that side of the paddock. So it's a bit like having Scotland and Kentucky on the one paddock, which is amazing. But it means that we can put the small barrels. So we do private barrels as well. We've got quite a few owners of 30-litre barrels. We chose second fill barrels in particular for those because we thought we'd get a bit more time again. And they're in that silo, in that cool silo. So it's nice to have two environments on the one property.
Yeah, I think that's such a cool and unique thing to have the option of microclimates to kind of choose from. I've got a couple more questions and we'll move on to the tasting the Kestrel. Michael S was wondering if you guys like have a standard mash bill of barley, or if you use like different types of barley, different like species is not the right word, but like different varietals or perhaps different malting levels of the barley, or is it just like one standard pale malt?
It is one standard Pilsner. So we chose a very clean Pilsner malt to begin with. Some of the early ones, actually, the first couple of distillations we did back in 2018, 2019, we did use a pale malt. But we decided we want to play around with certain variables one at a time. So the first thing we decided was that we're going to just use a consistent Pilsner malt and play around with the yeast. And we did that for about a year until we found the yeast that we wanted. Then we started playing around with brewing techniques. We've got to a point now that we're so happy with the new make. And then we did start playing with grain 2 years ago. But we moved to another Pilsner, and we now use the organic Pilsner from Voyager malt. It's been a bit of a game changer, that one too. I didn't think going from one Pilsner to another would actually make that big a difference, but it's made a huge difference. And I think it's because of the fact that this organic Pilsner is being grown on a single farm, without pesticides, without chemical fertilizers, and you can taste the cleanliness in this grain, which has allowed us to widen the cuts significantly on the spirit cuts, without getting into these funky notes that you'd often get in the faints. You know, sometimes some of that wet dog or baby vomit or mildew or wet laundry, you know, some of those cheesy burnt notes that come in the faints, they just don't seem to appear for the organic Pilsner. So we've been able to go right down back into 55% ABV on the back end cut into what would have been the faints when we were using just a Victorian Pilsner, which we were cutting at about 63, 62%. So yeah, still sticking to the Pilsner at this point in time. Maybe next year we might play around with some specialty malts, but at the moment we're just trying to get some consistency, because the next part was playing with barrels and just seeing which barrels really go well with this type of. So it's a very long process. All of these tweaking of variables has been years in the process. We like to do things very slowly.
Yeah. Oh, I think Mike's got a great suggestion. He'd be really curious to see what the yeast that you use and kind of the esters you produce with it would do with the chocolate malt for like a really funky, like rich, meaty kind of spirit. That would be really cool. But let's move on to the Kestrel rare release. Start tucking into that if you haven't already. And kind of going back to your playing now with cask type. And that kind of fits perfectly in with Ian's question of, are you selecting cask depending on the texture profile, kind of the flavor profile, or is it still kind of that experimental stage maybe as well with like a how does it respond in this cask type, or how does it behave in slave?
I think when we're doing such small format and we're doing single casks, it's probably in some respects always going to be a little bit experimental in that we're not cellaring big volumes. We're not blending big volumes together to have a consistent. They're really rare one-off offerings that you can select a cask, you can smell it, you can talk to the supplier, you can have it coopered and cooper it the way you think it's going to behave, but not until you've left the spirit in it for quite a long time that you actually get a result. So I think there's an element of experimentation always, and there's an element of not anxiety, but not apprehension, probably excitement about what is going to come out.
All of those.
Yeah.
All of those.
All of the above.
The apprehensions around the cost and return, but it's always a lot of it. Like, it's a lot of fun to go and taste the casks too while they're maturing, and at different stages, and you can taste something that you think it's not quite traveling where you want it to, and you can potentially recask it or rest it, or and the result, the changes. It's a constant education, so it's probably a constant test of
definitely experimental, because I still see us as a very young distillery, and in reality we are, when you compare us to most distilleries around the world. So we did try lots of different barrels to begin with. We've got sherries, we've got ports, we've fortified wines, we've had brandies. We're using Australian wine barrels. We're trying all sorts of things to see how our spirit goes in it. And we're only just starting to see now how our spirit does go in these types of barrels.
And we're adding coopering technique to that.
And coopering techniques as well. And to be honest, I think our spirit actually goes well in pretty much most barrels that we've tried so far. I was up in Sydney doing a tasting just on the weekend, and we had those sort of comments as well, that when you tried oak compared to Aquila and the Black Sheep, they're all good in their own right and very different barrel types. So it'll be interesting to hear what everyone else thinks here, what their favourite is, and where they think our spirit.
I'd like to know if there was any comments about the mouthfeel of that the Black Sheep.
Yeah, if you guys, I think Patrick pretty much nailed it on the head when he said it's very easy drinking whiskey and a great way to start. Like it's very fresh. Obviously I've been familiar with you guys and your whiskies for a little while, and I recall I think saying fairly early on you guys have a very Speyside style of single malt. It reminds me a lot of those different ones. So like the Black Sheep reminds me a lot of Glen Ord, and those like quite citrus but creamy citrus kind of whiskies. So yeah,
Speyside is an area we both like.
Yeah. It's,
And I,
you know, when there's so many distilleries, it's hard not to find something you like.
and I think the yeast, I don't know the exact distillery that this yeast was sampled from, but I do know it was a Scottish one, and most likely in the Speyside region. This particular yeast that it's a commercial yeast, but yeah, it's been grown and sourced from a Scottish distillery.
I I would probably actually hazard a guess that it might be from Deanston Distillery, because on every trip that I've made to Deanston, they've spoken about how they work with commercial labs to help curate and produce yeast that
Yeah,
are
right.
better yield and stuff like
Well,
that.
that would be
So
fantastic.
yeah, it might be Deanston, and then it's been used at other distilleries as well. But yeah,
I'd
interesting
be
to
very
see.
happy if it was, because I do love Deanston.
It's a cracking whiskey. It gets so overlooked and underloved, but yeah, it's really good stuff. Yeah. Michael K found it more welcome comfort rather than a dramatic entrance. I'm not mad at that. I like that description as well. Like less creamy, oily mouthfeel on the palate. Mike's getting pouring cream for that one versus pouring cream for the black sheep versus full cream milk for the kestrel. I actually understand what you mean. I feel crazy that I know what you
Oh,
mean,
cream.
but it
Yeah,
is that like I find that as well, the Kestrel, just sipping on it, had a bit more kind of body and chewiness and a little bit more
yeah.
baking spices to it, uh, as well. So there's a
Chocolate malt.
casking difference between these two, obviously.
Yeah, the casking difference. There would be a yeast difference as well, um, and possibly fermentation. We were doing we've been always done long fermentations, and we we like the lactic acid bacteria coming in for a longer fermentation and giving some of these creamy notes. And I think you'll see in some of our future releases coming with the way our current new make is, it's getting a really yogurty and like a blueberry yogurt and pomegranate molasses type of note to it, which I really, really love. So I think you'll see that creamy note going forward. I just noticed the question up there, Saccharomyces cerevisiae is the question. That is true, but it's also variety diastaticus, without giving away the exact yeast that we're using, but it is a diastaticus yeast.
Now we're getting next level geek.
Yeah.
Um, So I think as well, Patrick was also asking as well for the rare releases. Obviously, in the lineup, everyone might have noticed they're all 50%. Is that something that you standardize with all your rare release or single cask releases? Or is
Sorry,
that
what
an
was the question?
The there was a note that they're all 50%. We
Right.
we looked at we both like a high ABV. I do like a lot of mouth. I like Arbelauer, Arbonard, but so I do like quite a high. We still, while we want to create what we really enjoy, we still want it to be appealing. So we just got to be a little bit mindful and careful, I think. And we try to release at best point of time. So we're not trying to force casks out. We still have commercial pressures, but we try to push that aside so that we've got a release when it's ready to release, and we try to make it palatable for everyone. I would have liked to have seen the Aquila a bit of higher ABV, but the decision is more around what people are going to. We're making for our public as well. We're not just purely making for ourselves.
And also we've found, because we did for all the releases previously, we've done dilution tests, in a certain range, and always found that lower 50s was a nice range for us. And again, for that mouthfeel reason, we found that the lower 50s just seems to have the bigger mouthfeel. And after doing this for a number of times, we actually found a good scientific reason why this is also the case. You said we could get a bit nerdy, didn't you, Emma? That's all right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Got a few
actually
notes in the crowd.
there's a really good graph. You can look it up.
It's the most fun geek.
There's a lovely graph of viscosity of an ethanol water mix. Now, obviously, whiskey is not just ethanol water, but it's mainly that. There are lots of congeners in there as well. But this graph of viscosity actually peaks, and it's like a bell curve. So it gets more viscous up to a point, and then it drops off rapidly after that point. And that point is actually 50.6%. If you find the graph, it's actually in weight volume, and you have to do a lot of calculation to get it back into ABV rather than weight to weight. But that just shows. So if you go a bit higher in ABV, the liquid can get a bit thinner and more solventy, and if you go lower in ABV, it gets thinner again but more watery. So we've found that in our whiskies, and it doesn't happen for all whiskies, because sometimes there's a lot of barrel influence which will actually stuff up that peak. But we've found for our whiskies at that 50 point, viscosity is bigger, and that's why we like these whiskies at that point, because of the mouthfeel and because of the viscosity.
There's some fun comments there.
Perfect bell curve. Yeah, I know the tasting notes on the Kestrel. Michael K is coming for my gig with his tasting notes. It's phenomenal. Kestrel is like honey drizzled from a spoon, held a touch too high, chasing citrus peel on the way down. Comes a flicker of fig, not dramatic, just a fruit clearing its throat.
Does he write for the SMWS? Does he?
All right. Should apply for the writing job for that. No, it's fantastic.
Off your resident ChatGPT for
absolute major in uni. I like
it. But yeah, and then
they're calling him a ChatGPT
now. D&D, that's what gets you. That's where all the literary kids end up. But yeah,
viscosity
Patrick saying Black Sheep was not quite as silky, but maybe satiny. I love that description of satin. Kestrel's a bit chewier. And yeah, Mike's right as well. High tannins can kind of skew the perception of viscosity upwards as well. Yeah, I mean, look,
is Mike suggesting there is some high tannins, or is he just saying it can?
I think it's just as well. I think it's so much on a whiskey distillery by distillery basis.
Yeah.
Like for me, I love Blair Athol at a high ABV, but I've had Blair Athol at lower ABVs, and it's too spicy, and it's not watery. It's just too much. Too many of the tannins kind of can kind of come out as well. But I think you guys have kind of nailed that kind of gentle balance between everyday drinkers and people who we're chill with the slightly higher alcohol content. I think none of it feels too thin at all by any measure. It's perfectly chewy, but
and
I still feel like it's sessionable.
It's all very personal, and I love reading the comments because I love to think about what other people are getting out of the experience. So it's great to read.
Well, we might move on to whiskey number 3, if I can spell the word whiskey correctly and not mess it up. My fat fingers, readjusting to the keyboard after so long away. But we'll move on to the Aquila Audax. Maybe
Aquila Audax.
Aquila Audax. Yeah.
The wedgie.
The wedgie. Can you see
the wedge-tailed eagle?
Wedge-tailed eagle in there. Yeah.
We couldn't label it the wedgie and say to someone, "Would you like a wedgie?" Yeah.
See, that could have been the perfect jumping off point for a series of bird-themed whiskey bottles that were like silly names. You could have gone from the wedgie to the budgie smuggler. I'm just saying. Missed opportunity.
Open the bottle at your own risk.
Yeah.
Well,
must be 18 or older to open this bottle.
Stay tuned. We might have the Willy Wagtail next year. Keep an eye out for that one.
If anybody's wondering, we have a lot of bird life in the area, and for anyone that hasn't been to the property, it's in a beautiful valley. And we do have a pair of wedge tails that circle the property regularly. And we did have a whiskey called Sea Eagle, and we do have, as far south as in Dennet Head, we've got a pair of sea eagles that nest nearby. So we have an amazing array of bird life on the property.
And we make our bird list is our casks, is our barrel house. All the things we see go on there.
Okay. Aquila, this is a nice drop.
This is
I do
a bit different. This is a more traditional sherry casking kind of stuff, you
pair up.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. This was the first time we'd filled a sherry cask as well. Sorry, no, second time. With the as a European sherry, as a proper sherry, and not in a pairer. This was the first time we filled. So we filled a 250 litre Oloroso sherry barrel from Tonelleri Rodriguez in the Andalusia region of Spain. I think they make a lot of barrels for their local bodegas. And then they source them back and act as a broker. So we got them from them, plus a 120 litre one as well. So this is actually a blend of a smaller barrel and a larger barrel. They were first filled, so they were getting quite intense in their flavour profile at the 3-year mark. So we took them out of those barrels and put them into a refill bourbon barrel just to let them rest, just to let the flavors of the Oloroso sherry integrate and mellow a little bit. So it only spent another 6 months in those bourbon barrels. But yeah, most of the maturation in the two Olorosos. And yeah, it is a bit more of your
I like that note there, Ed.
Werther's, definitely Werther's.
No, never seen Emma blush before.
Never seen Emma blush. What's she blushing?
No, it's just a reflection from a jumper.
I love. Look, I'm a big fan of decadent drinks. Most of the guys in the chat know it. And the sillier a whiskey can get, the better. So I think just running with the budgie theme for a series of fun ones is totally worth it. But so you're talking about as well, you do kind of that initial maturation, and you do a lot of kind of resting in bourbon barrels as a secondary resting, but technically finishing, I suppose. It's not super common over here in Australia, is it? I feel like not a lot of distilleries are really doing that practice.
Not a lot that I've heard. I know Rod from Amber Lane does a bit of this as well, and I think the cognac industry have known this for a while, that getting a lot of those big oaky tannins from first fill barrels to move them on into older barrels and successively older barrels is a way to improve mouthfeel and let some of those tannins soften with time without getting more and more tannins. And we definitely found that with using first fill wine barrels from our local winery, Scotchman's Hill. You'll see it in our oak series. This is a really good example of seeing what first fill compared to second fill does on the wine barrels, and then finished by a bourbon. I just really like that layer of sweetness that the bourbon gives. American oak is a bit more porous as well, so it allows some of those oxygen reactions to really take over and help soften some of those tannins. So yeah, and we don't like throwing out barrels either. So we keep them, and we'll use them as resting vessels that don't give a lot of oak, they don't give a lot of extractors, but they do allow some of those oxygen reactions to occur and soften. Yes, but you're right. I don't think that a lot of distilleries that I know around Australia are doing that. They still like, some of the big punchy flavors. A lot of Aussie whiskey drinkers still like those big fortifieds. There's a lot of wood, a lot of previous content in the spirit. Whereas
we're not trying to smother our new make.
No, our new make, we spend a lot of time
new make
on
to shine.
Yeah, and we'll see that in ones going forward. We will have another core range at some point in time. I think we may have delayed that for another couple of years, but there will be a spirit series that will match the oak series to highlight that very thing. One that's a bit more oak forward, and one that's a bit more spirit forward, and showcases our new make to the possible.
I need a little bit of clarification from you, Rob McKenzie. No,
on a wedge-like finish on the tail,
made by a pair of tits. I'm not really referring to you and me.
Made by a pair of tits. I like
it. I feel like as well, a lot of distillers go that traditional path of, in Scotland, they age it for ages in bourbon, and then they finish it in like fortifieds or sherries or whatever. And I feel like a lot of distilleries have taken that approach when we literally have like the opposite climate over here. So I think it's fantastic to see. And I do think as well, that thinking back to having come back from France, one of my favorite liqueurs, chartreuse, they do maturation in these large wooden vessels that are, 80, 100 years old or whatever. And it's not for the flavor from oak, it's for everything in the alcohol to kind of meld together and play nice, and to really take that time to become friendly with itself, I suppose you could say. And I think that
just a
utilizing
comfortable resting
those,
space.
utilizing those, like refill those bourbon casks, just makes your spirit friendlier, I think.
Yeah.
But no, super, super cool. So, kind of moving into the oak series batch number 2 then. I do love the tasting notes for the Wedge-tail eagle. I'm not saying the Latin. I'm terrible at Latin. I do love the tasting notes. Mike says it's his favorite so far. I think it's my favorite so far as well. Even though I really love the black sheep. Simon says it sits great. Love the flavor profile. Patrick, nice and oily. Dark stone fruits goes almost too tanniny, but not quite. Mike Turner saying like slightly over steeped tea. Yeah, but like I like a very like heavily steeped tea. And Michael S. loves the way the ex-bourbon finish has tamed the punchy sherry first fill perfect. So, oh my God, Michael K. stealing my job again. I have to read this whole thing out, sorry. Strides in wearing a velvet cape, Black Forest cake, and then the fudge arrives. It doesn't glide, it staggers politely outward like a hawk 3 sherries deep, trying to maintain conversation. I'll be handing in my notes at the end of the day, and I will be submitting your application to Ollie, so you can write all of the articles for the company now.
Fantastic.
Absolutely love it. Well, kind of like moving into the oak series, I know you said early on you started off with a lot of wine cask finishes for your whiskey or wine cask maturations for your whiskey. Is this kind of a delve back into that with the oak series?
Oh, oak series. Have we moved on? We're up to number 2, are we? Sorry,
up to
batch 2.
Oak batch 2.
Oak series batch 2. Too many numbers.
All right, I've got it wrong. So the oak series is one of we call it our flagship series because it's the same quality new make going in there. So sometimes when you say core range, people go, oh, it's your entry level, more affordable. This one is more affordable actually, but it's only because we do it in larger quantities. So this is we release it in batches, and when I say large quantities, batch 3 was still only 3 barrels. That was 3 200-litre barrels. Batch 3 was 3 barrels. Batch 2 was only 2 barrels. So they're not large batches still, but for us, they're our largest batches. So it is one of our core range, our flagship series that we want to release every year in batch format. So you'll see oak batch 5, 6, 7. Maybe by batch 10, we will have actually hit a consistent recipe by then too. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. It's fun to tweak.
It's about being able to lay down enough spirit to
exactly.
Let's say cellar or just keep that blend happening.
To be able to blend is difficult for us because we make 3,000 litres of whiskey a year. Some of those go into the rare series. Some are already laid down for our future spirit series, which is mainly refill and bourbon barrels. Whereas the oak series is always a wine maturation first and then finished in bourbon. So the oak series will always stay that. It will always be regional red wine barrels. Up until now, it's always been Scotchman's Hill, ex-Pinot Noir barrels, French oak, and we've really liked those, the Pinot Noir barrels in particular, and their selection of French oak. This oak series batch 2 though is their first fill wine barrels, and they're 100-litre size. So there was only 4 100-litre barrels in this batch, which were in there for only just over two and a bit years. Like we were talking about before, first fill wine barrels, they, especially of that smaller size in the 100-litre format, they have got a lot to give. So at the 2-year mark, they needed to come out because they were giving a lot of spice, a lot of tannin, and then rest in the first fill bourbon. First fill bourbon giving it that layer of vanilla and that layer of caramel as well. But yeah, this will be an ongoing series for us. and then at some point it will. I really like. So I don't know. What do you think of it? You like batch 2, don't you?
I like batch. I've rated each batch actually, and the batch 3's been nice. 52% this is. I did Whiskey and Dreams at the Terminus on Saturday, and a few people said to me it was the best thing they tasted at the event. Now, I know that's really big statement to make, but
that was batch 3. Yep,
batch 3. A lot of people that come into our distillery door and they'll try the rare series, and of course it's all personal, but a lot of them go, "Wow, that's my favourite."
So I think with batch 2, it's younger than batch 3. It's a bit bigger. It's got more of those jam features, but it's also got more of the spice, and that is all coming from that first fill maturation. The jamminess is coming from that Pinot. The spiciness is coming from the French oak. So when we moved to batch 3, we tried the second fills that we had there. We had six 100-litre barrels in second fill, which were left over from batch 1 or even earlier releases. And for me, it was a bit more elegant, a bit more refined. We could get more time again. So batch 3 is actually 4 years old, whereas batch 2 is just under 3. And I think you can see those differences. For me, this is jammier, spicier, and a little bit more youthful.
I find it very drinkable.
Still drink.
Yeah. It's definitely that kind of youthfulness, but I get a lot of pink marshmallows, that like really lovely, you know, gelatinous is a terrible word to use, but you know, the chewiness of a marshmallow kind of thing on the nose and the palate. So yeah, super, super cool. So obviously tonight we've tried like a lot of the rare cast release and whatnot, and we're trying these batch releases. Is the idea that you guys will have more core range releases moving forward, that you will do more kind of as big as you can batches moving forward, or is this kind of the only one that is slated um for consistency?
No, so we have
Positive
this.
distance.
The Spirit series we've had in cask as well for a little while, which is mainly bourbon barrels. So that was the idea for our flagship series, to have this more oak forward one, which showcases local Aussie wine barrel maturation finished in bourbon, and then another one that really showcases the spirit by being in refill bourbons and first fill bourbons. But it's probably a couple of years away, that one, to be honest. And after seeing how Aquila has been received, if we can get a good supply of Oloroso sherry, I'd love to do Oloroso sherry as one of our core range as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's splitting up in the number of casks that we do in a year. At the moment, we're only doing, like I said, 3,000 litres. So that equates to, refilling some of the hundreds and then maybe 10 of the 200-litre barrels. So 10 to 15 barrels a year is not a lot to play with for having 3 core ranges. Eventually, we are going to ramp up a bit more. At the moment, we don't have a brewery on site. We've made space for a brewery, and we're doing a fair bit of upgrade works. But at the moment, we actually go to a local brewery and we hire the facilities for a day, and we go down there and we make our own wash at that brewery, and then we leave it in their fermenter for 7 days and then go pick it up. So that's a bit, it's a bit more of an expensive way to do it until we've got our own brewery, and then we could probably quadruple production actually by the time we have our own brewery. But still, quadrupling 3,000 litres, still not a big quantity that we're looking at. We don't really want to get bigger than that. 12,000 litres would be a huge amount of whiskey for us.
No, we'd be busy. Michael wants to know the average time frame for the resting in an ex-bourbon to achieve the profile we're looking for. We're probably looking at about 6 months. 4 months.
Yeah, it's not long. Like the first releases, batch 1 was about 6 months. Batch 2 was probably about 4 months. Yeah. Batch 3 was about 4 months as well. We have noticed differences in the bourbon barrels. In the early ones, we used some Buffalo Trace. We've used some Heaven Hill. We've just discovered some Bardstown ones, and they're fantastic. They give a really nice, quite sweet profile. So if we can keep sourcing the Bardstown bourbons, we'll use them. So depending on how much sweetness the cask gives and how much vanilla, and it kind of depend. So we're tasting it all the time. There's no set recipe.
It's interesting.
It's
interesting accessing that. We've had some delivered to the distillery that you couldn't use. Yeah, certainly weren't what we ordered, that's always an interesting conversation. But there's a lot of management goes into the casks, the preparation and the filling, resting. There's a lot of preparation and a lot of thought goes into managing the casks.
I imagine as well the returns policy on a cask is not quite what the ACCC is used to handling.
Well, we handled that one ourselves.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I've got a two-parter question. Is there a cask type or wood that you avoid or don't
Treated pine.
tend to use? What was that?
Treated pine.
Well,
No,
that's cheating.
When you say a wood type,
or a barrel type that we might avoid. We're still very much in the experimental phase.
Yeah.
We've tried a lot of stuff.
I'm quite fascinated with the couple of experiments with Australian hardwoods. I find that quite fascinating.
Yeah, no, we haven't tried any Aussie hardwood.
Yeah,
It's like
or acacia or anything like that. I find some of that pretty interesting.
We've stuck with oak.
Yeah,
yeah, I like oak.
And his second part is, is there a cask type that you'd love to get your hands on and try in the future?
a cask type.
Palo Cortado. Got any of those around?
And how many banks are you going to rob to afford a cask of that?
When he says cask types, does he mean what fruit's been in them, or is he talking Chardonnay, Champagne?
Yeah, all
I
types.
mean, anything and everything. What, like, is there kind of a unicorn cask, or some type of ex liqueur, ex fortified, ex something cask that you would love to get your hands on?
I always liked the idea of getting a mezcal cask, just because when I tried the Lagavulin 12, I don't know which year it was, when they threw in some mezcal or tequila barrel finishes, I thought it worked really well. But that worked well with their peaty liquid. We might do a smoke down the tree, but yeah, mezcal was on the cards. That Palo Cortado, some of the sherries, but nothing stands out right now.
To answer this question, we're probably the idea of some Oloroso, and I suppose again, and I keep saying it's about preparation too. It's about what the cooper does with the cask before you use it. And that's wonderful to witness and watch how they prepare and what they can do to make a difference. Is pretty interesting.
I've got a whiskey sitting on a shelf that I just got from Ivan's World of Whiskey, which was a milk and honey pomegranate wine barrel finish. So I'll let you know how that goes, but maybe pomegranate wine could be the new one, especially with the pomegranate molasses flavors we're getting in our new make.
You're from Geelong. Where is your 37? Is that a reference to football, wine, someone else in the
Corio?
Corio. Oh, well.
Maybe.
Well, we've actually got access to some Corio casks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I do know the chap who owns Corio Distillery. There are quite a lot of casks in there still, and we have toyed with the idea of trying to resurrect one and just see what happened. They're all beautifully painted with Corio Distillery. It's an amazing complex. We've considered a Corio cask.
Justin's trying to steal our barrels already. Wait,
Justin can't
get him off the chat.
We've got.
He's writing it down, being like, "Yes, I will contact under, work," and then snaffle one aside for me. But yeah, coming back from France, I got to meet the owner of Champagne Dommagin, and he makes a ratafia kind of style wine, and I was like, I've only seen him mature in those cask types, and there's so many more styles out there than we even realize half the time. But yeah, really cool.
Is Mike a cat supporter? Never mind the birds. Where is the cats related?
I think that well, maybe it's a Geelong reference. Otherwise, it's probably the fact that there is
I'm a
a
Saints supporter,
proportion-
Mike. A good cat is a flat cat, mate.
yeah, there is also like a very large crossover between people who love cats and people who love whiskey. Don't ask me why, but yeah.
Michael S. The when Craig talks about the red wine for the bourbon, they're Scotchman's Hill Pinot Noir French oak. So they're only just up the hill from us. They virtually roll them down the hill.
We have recently started sourcing as well from Del Rios winery.
Gus out of Del Rios at Anarchy, who is probably one winemaker who looks after his casks impeccably. He's wonderful.
Amazing. Well, we might move on to whiskey number 5, the Oak Series Batch 3. And I hope you guys have kept some of the Batch 2 left as well, so you can kind of compare them side by side, which I highly recommend. Or if you're like me and only have one glass, just sip them one after the other. But yeah, so this is also a red wine cask from Scotchman's Hill, this batch release.
Correct. Yep. So the main difference here is that we used second fill barrels on the first maturation. So the first maturation being the ex Pinot Noir barrels from Scotchman's Hill, which meant that we could leave them in a bit longer. We didn't get as much of that spiciness. We didn't get as much tannin impact. And so then when we did bring it out and put it into the bourbon barrel, we were keeping a very strong eye on how much of that vanilla was going in from the bourbon, which meant, again, it was only a short time in the bourbon barrel, probably 4 months again on this one. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you guys think on the comparison of the two. My personal preference is batch 3, using more refill barrels in the blend is kind of the way to go, because we get a bit more time. Time does add some benefits, especially in some mouthfeel. And dialing down some of those tannins, I think, is a good thing when you're dealing with Aussie wine barrels.
Yeah, I'm just immediately on the nose. Obviously, the difference is worlds apart. This might sound a little crazy, but it's very beachy on the nose. It's like it's a lovely sandy beach with like a nice breeze coming in, like, just that kind of light salinity and whatnot. Yeah, no, it's
yeah.
lovely.
Yeah, well, and what we didn't want to let lose with this was what we were getting from those Pinot cask was some of these strawberries and cream type of characters. Red skin lollies often was a tasting note that came up with the Oak series. Didn't want to lose that, and I don't think we have lost it. I think it's just a bit more elegant and a bit more subdued, but it's still there. And the vanilla from the bourbon highlights that sort of cream part of the strawberries and cream lolly.
Yeah, definitely. Rob can only pay me an extra $30 so I can buy myself some glasses. Don't worry, I have glasses. I'm just way too lazy to wash 6 glasses every virtual tasting. I'm here every week, and my poor dishwasher is already full enough from all of the baking that I do, so I don't need to stress it out any further. But yeah, also Rob's saying batch 3 is much smoother. Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to each. I think I personally like batch 2 a little bit more. I feel like I'm gonna have to revisit them back to back again and again to really kind of see. Mike Turner understands the beach notes, would have said freshwater lake. Yeah, it's not it's not quite that salinity, but it's that warm sea breeze that feels comforting, I think. Yeah. Michael S is getting mouthfeel on the number 3's creamier, chewy, late spice note on the finish. Mike says whiskey trumps baking. You haven't had my baking, and I put whiskey in most of my baked goods, so challenge you there on that. Yeah, the Redskins, or I think they're called Red Rippers now. I'm not quite sure. It's a good call. Yeah, the strawberry cloud lollies as well. Yeah. Finish is creamy with nuts that arrive overdressed for a church raffle. No guesses for who this tasting note's from. There's an attempt at dignity.
He's had too much to drink.
I know. I'm like, it's getting more intense the more whiskeys we get through. Mike is asking as well, what would you name the ex-Carrara barrel release? Would it be one of the bird
Yeah,
names, or
well,
would it be something else? Maybe like a dodo?
yeah, look, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? We've had a couple of chats with John, and a long time ago he said just come out and grab a couple of casks, and we haven't done it, but we must, and it would be a fun. I'd love to have one just sitting in the bond store, but we must have a crack at it and just see what we could do with one of those old casks.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Yeah.
yeah. So we will try it, and we might put it out to the to everyone to name it. We might make a bit of a fun competition to see about naming the cask.
That would be really fun. I will say as well, I think Mike was also saying he'd had some early batches of Carrara that are quite good. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to try some very early and very late Carrara, and you can kind of see the difference. Even through a lot of them taste like that old bottle effect, but you can get a sense for what they would have tasted like fresh. But you guys are kind of so well positioned that western, not really corridor, but that western side of Victoria was really predominant for historical distilling in Australia with Carrara, Warringhep Distillery, and stuff like that. So you know you're really kind of well positioned, I think, for having that whiskey history behind you.
Yeah, we could probably see if through a pair of binoculars we could see Carrara from our site.
That would be a pretty big up. That'd be a pretty big pair of binoculars. You might need
Oh no, it's not far across the bay. It's quite
telescope.
clear. Yeah, no, we can see Avalon. We can see all that. We can see Shell. We could see in detail. We could pick out Carrara. It's not that far away across the bay. You'll have to come down and have a look.
Yeah.
It is definitely getting toasty in here. I did have to open the door. This is not a background fire. It's actually.
I was like, is it one of those, screams that just looks like a fire? It's a real fire.
Yeah, Michael, so getting a bit toasty here.
It's been so cold the previous nights.
Yeah, the Phoenix cask is a good idea. Yeah.
Pick
up the Phoenix. Yeah.
I like Rob's suggestion as well. Obviously, if you bring the brewing part of the process on site, which again I think very exciting, not many distillers doing. I think it's such a integral part of the process, and you guys are getting as close to it by kind of gypsy brewing for your wash. But if you do it on site, you can have like a lot more control for a peated release, and like Rob was saying, do a cigar malt, call it a puffin, which I think is such a cute idea. Surely there'll be a fairy penguin release at some point as well. I know that we can see them from our side of the bay occasionally in winter, so maybe you can see the birds over from your side as well.
Yeah, they do. They come down to the coast. They come down around Lawn Way, the fairy penguins. Yeah. Justin was going to ask a question, I think. He's been sitting in that tree all this time and he's hardly spoken, and I don't know, I've never heard him so quiet.
It's a miracle.
What was it? Just
did you have a question?
Did you have a
Justin?
question?
No, I was stretching.
Oh, well, don't fall out of the tree.
Oh dear. Well, we might move on to the final whiskey of the night, going back to the bird theme, the tawny frogmouth.
Tawny frogmouth.
Do you see
if you look above Justin's head in that photo, just above Justin's head, there's a tree behind that's the one. Distillery door building behind him, and there's a tree there that the two little frogmouths sit in. They've got a few different spots on site, but they sit there looking over the little barrel silo, keeping a watchful eye on the barrel silo. They've been there the whole time we've owned the property, and they've had chicks. It's been really lovely to watch the family. So we named this after the tawny frogmouths.
It's been amazing to see how they rear their children as well, and then kick them out of home after 6 weeks. It's
they could teach us all a lesson.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, I'm sure there's a lot of parents who are like, damn, if only I was a tawny frogmouth right now.
So this came about. This whiskey is 5 100-litre barrels that originally held various wines from South Australia. They were fortified wines and table reds. They were originally brought over to our distillery that were filled with a South Australian spirit. So back when we didn't have a distillery, Russ jumped on to get some barrels that we could release as an independent bottling down the track.
Which was a great success, actually.
Which was a good success. It was a few years back. We released something called the Christmas Pud. It was in a square bottle. It was very clear that it wasn't our spirit. I don't know if anyone saw the Christmas Pud, but there were these 500 ml square bottles, very similar to the old Kempton style bottle.
Yeah.
And it was big and rich and spicy. It was like a Christmas pudding.
Yeah, it was lovely.
But when we emptied that, we refilled. So it would have been 4 years, over 4 years ago, because we refilled those casks. And this liquid is what came out of those refill 5 fortified and table wine barrels. Then we blended them together and put them into a 500 litre tawny puncheon. So there's a link to the tawny there as well, not just from the birds, but from the finishing cask. This has been in the tawny puncheon now for almost another year. And it's we're waiting for some of the mouthfeel to round off on this one. There was probably a hint of sulfur. Being a fortified wine barrel, there can always be that barrel sulfur that can get in there. When we originally had them charred, we didn't realize that the heads hadn't been charred. And when we filled it up, it came back and tasted it, and I could taste a little bit of that sulfur. So we emptied it quickly after 2 weeks, recharred, and then put it back in. And now we're just seeing it's coming to a good zone now, but there's still a little bit of that sort of spice, acidic note.
That was a Glenrowan muscat. It was 17 years old when we pulled it out.
On the nose, I really like the port nose that's coming through. This is 55% still in the barrel at the moment.
Yeah, wow.
I like that, but it's got that little bit of
little bit of like when you get like a whole mouthful of cinnamon, and it's that like not quite spicy, but it's lots of flavor, but it's good.
The
tingle.
And that tingle has been dropping over the course of the last year, so it'll be interesting to see where this is next year. Most likely next year.
It's going to have another 12 months at least, isn't it?
Most likely. We'll see how it goes over summer. Summer's always an interesting period of time for maturing barrels. It can speed things up. So we'll be tasting it fairly regularly through summer.
Where they are stored is in a very big, very aerated shed, so they're not getting excessive heat. They'll get a bit of climate, but they won't be sitting on underneath a hot tin. They're quite protected.
It's tasting pretty good.
I like that. I like that cinnamon. It's almost a smoky cinnamon too, I think.
Yeah, almost like edging on the American
incense,
style. Yeah. It's on the nose I was getting like the really fancy like lint dark chocolate with caramel in the center of it. It's very much that caramel dark chocolate, and then on the palate you get more of that dark cocoa ganache type thing to it. Yeah, super
still has
cool.
a bottle of the pud. Did you like the pud, Joel?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
Joel's.
Yeah, picked pink peppercorn.
Yeah, I love the tasting note of pink peppercorn. Joel ended up with 3 bottles of the pud in the end, so yeah, I think it's safe to assume. I love it. Yeah, Rob says punching well above its weight. Jamie, it'll be divine when you release it. Yeah, I think
that is interesting.
If you're careful with it over the next year, I think it'll be sublime. The Michaels, long dry sweet finish, and then toasty cinnamon donuts. Balanced by curious herbal bitterness. Yeah, that like subtle. What is it? It's almost like an angelica root bitterness. Patrick skin, cardamom, and coriander. and yeah, makes it very special. I think it's interesting as well. We were kind of talking about this before we started the virtual, comparing the Tawny Frogmouth to the Aquila, because they are both quite sherried profiles. Would be really cool. So if you guys have any left of the Aquila,
we have
big if.
I think it might be a bit of fun if there's some really great comments there. If you had the patience and you could be bothered to write down your notes, and maybe we taste that as a group again in 12 months' time and see what everybody thinks.
We'll just have a standing list.
Yeah, that would be interesting to do.
Yeah, we do.
There are some good notes there.
The Aquila, just for your information, the Aquila batch was about 470 bottles. We're probably halfway through that. The Black Sheep release was 277 bottles. We're well over 3/4 of the way through that one. They are disappearing at a nice rate. Sometimes you want them to go quickly. Sometimes you want to keep them for our paddles at the Whiskery at the venue, so that we've got some whiskey to serve. But yeah, all the rare releases are usually between that 200 to 400 sort of bottle range.
The lowest was about 61. I think.
We did do a very small release of 60 bottles once, which we'll never do again because the labels cost us an arm and a leg when you do
the whiskey
labels.
The whiskey was good.
The whiskey was good.
Yeah. Was it worth the the economic loss of? I think that's the thing as well with labels. You don't realize the economies of scale of buying a bulk amount of labels.
Yes, I realise quickly when they give me a quote for 500 labels, and it's the same as the quote for 3,000 labels. Yeah.
So 60 does not quite.
No. Well, I think officially that is all of the whiskies tasted. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the poll. You guys can pick your top 2 favorite whiskies of the night. Please excuse me, I've mixed up the Oak Series Batch 3 and Batch 2 order in the poll. Russ and Craig, you can see the votes as they come in. Don't spoil anything, but it's very exciting. It's like the horse races.
Look at that. Oh,
Nice
chasing them.
You're not meant to say anything. It's like a horse race, isn't it?
It's so much fun. I love it.
But
in terms of, and like you were saying,
makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Can we vote?
No, we can't vote, unfortunately. But yeah, in terms of bottles for sale tonight, obviously the Tawny Frogmouth is not for sale. It is still in barrel, sitting and waiting. And yes, we will try and do our best to get our hands on a taster in 6 months or so from now, maybe. Yeah, so if you are after any of the bottles from tonight's tasting, please email Ollie. I will put his email in the chat.
I'll just make a comment there, Em.
Yes, of course.
What's really interesting there, and I made the comment earlier about awards and your customers being your most important critics or most important people on your panel. Even though the Kestrel was awarded in the judges' minds, and I suppose for a lot of reasons, and marketability and all that stuff might come into it for them. I think they because they look at an ABV, they do have a favourite ABV, and and yet
are you about to spoil the poll results?
He's about to spoil the poll results.
He's about to spoil the poll results.
No, I'm not. No, well, it certainly it hasn't polled the highest.
Yeah. Well, we can reveal that, but I'll do a quick insert drum roll here, because I think pretty much everyone has responded. But officially sharing the results, and yeah, you're right. I remember when the Kestrel won that award, and I tasted it. I think I was there with you guys at the gala event. I rocked up late, and I tasted it. I was like, oh, I know why this won, because I know all of the judges and I know their preferences in Scottish whiskey. And I think I told you guys at the time, it reminded me of that kind of chewy Glentockers style single malt. And having tasted the others, I agree with everyone in the crowd. I think the Aquila is hands down my favorite. from the night. But yeah, it's so interesting to see, particularly people who have been trained, not just our drinkers of
Yeah.
it, but who've been trained
Yeah,
predominantly
to
on Scotch whiskey, what they go for in a lineup versus, you know,
Mm.
everyday consumers. Yeah,
So while it's
super.
lovely to get that award, it is, you know, it's interesting to see, you know, what your customers actually
Because
enjoy.
Aquila got a silver medal in the same awards.
Yeah, didn't even rate a goal.
this
Or
year.
did the black sheep. Yeah,
Yeah. Although I did get a text from one of the judges the next day saying,
that
I
should
think
have
that
been a
black
goal.
sheep should have been a gold,
Yeah.
actually.
So
Well,
that was great.
also, as well, with our poll results, usually the first whiskey of the night gets no love at all. So for the black sheep to get quite
That's
a few
good.
votes is really,
Nice.
really impressive and a
I
testament to
like
the
that.
quality.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Can we
It
take
was
a-
a lot of fun. It would have been lovely to be able to be in a room and talk to you all.
I just want to take a screenshot of that.
Yeah.
Can I take a screenshot?
Here's my phone. I'll get-
Do the high
yeah,
techy screenshot thing.
it would have been a
Everybody
lot
make
of
a
fun.
fabulous face.
There you go. It would have been a lot of fun to I got it. Yep. Yeah, to spend some time with everyone, have a chat and drink whiskey like you should in a group, socialise. But thank you very much, Emma, for the night, and Mike.
No worries.
And all of it.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Please,
Yeah.
Thank you,
I was going to say,
everyone.
please come down and visit us too down at the Bellarine.
Yeah.
If you've never been down that way, we've got a lovely venue down there. We've got some great gardens. It's like a big beer garden. You can sit there and have pizzas.
And the
have
ferry ride
cocktails
is
and-
the ferry ride down is a must do for someone like you, Emma, living in St Kilda.
Yes.
That ferry ride pulls up at port.
Yeah,
It's,
if you're not prone to seasickness, definitely take the
on the
ferry
right
over from the
day,
city.
It's a big boat, big boat.
But yes,
thank
thank
you. Thank
you
you.
so much. No, thank you, Russ and Craig, for joining us, and Justin lurking in the corner.
Can I do some blatant product placement then just before
Yeah,
before we go?
go on.
Because they were saying about coming to visit us. Although tickets aren't live yet, they will be going live soon. We run a little whiskey festival down at the Bellarine Distillery. Run it for the first time last year. Whiskey by the Bay. We're running it again this year in October, Saturday, October the 25th. It will be an all-day event. There's about 16 distilleries from across Australia and a few independent bottlers as well. It'll be a really cool day. Only $25 to get in.
17 distilleries.
17 distilleries, yeah. So I've just kind of posted a link in the chat. As I said, that's from last year. But if you guys are interested, kind of visit us. That's like a pretty good day to come along, and you can kind of see the grounds and see everything that we've got going on. And Craig might want to do one final plug, which is for our Boilermaker that we've just released.
yeah,
as well.
Yes,
We-
with Father's
we're
Day
gonna
coming up.
We were going to be really rude and drink this
And-
beer in
and-
front of you tonight, but we got too busy drinking the whiskies. But this has just come out. This is a collaboration that we've just done with Kaiju. It's called A Song of Kaiju and Bellarine Distillery. It's a very big imperial stout that's been aged in the first maturation of our Oak Series barrels. So aged in those ex-Pinot Noir barrels that we had Oak Series in. And then we paired it with two whiskies, Aquila being one of them, and Oak Series being the other, Oak Series Batch 3. So you get it in a pack like this with a 750ml bottle of the stout and two 50ml bottles of the whiskies. It's a good one for Father's Day. Wouldn't Dad love that?
Listen to him. No.
I know this Dad would love it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there's lots and lots of stuff to do out Wester Way, and yeah, like Justin's popped the URLs. That's what they are. The websites in the chat for the Kaiju. Get it for your dad. Get it for yourself. Get it for whoever. And then obviously as well, while you're on the website, you can join their mailing list to get updates on how the Tawny Frogmouth is going. Officially, that is it from me. Thank you so much, Russ and Craig, for joining us, for sharing your knowledge and your whiskey.
Patrick, you get an invite, mate. You're all invited.
Everyone's invited. You heard it here first. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
everyone,
Sam.
for joining
Thank you,
us.
everyone.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Lots of fun. Thank you very much.